Thank you, and welcome to our Time Mastery for Grad Student session. My name is Diana Honishag, and I get to serve as the Director of Retention for our online master's degree programs at the University of San Diego. And so I get a unique experience of welcoming all of our brand new students and then also watching as they walk across that stage at commencement and celebrate with their families. So it is a joy to be here with you all this evening. This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart because I am also a current online degree student at the university pursuing my doctorate program. So I'm really excited to hear from our co-facilitators this evening on some of the tips and tricks and best practices for navigating and prioritizing your schedules. So here with us this evening includes our Counseling Center Doctoral Psychology interns. We have Lauren Kimball and Abby Schmidt. So Lauren is currently pursuing that PhD in counseling psychology from University of North Texas with a specialty focus on children, families, and couples. She's in her final internship year working at USC's Counseling Center. Lauren completed her undergraduate degree from Santa Clara University, where she earned a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and Women's and Gender Studies with a minor in Studio Arts. Lauren has previous experience in a community mental health setting, a university counseling center, and private practice, working with a diverse range of clients with a variety of concerns, including trauma, grief, identity development, depression, anxiety, and life transitions. Lauren loves to integrate her art into her work and loves to pick up new creative hobbies. One of those includes traveling around the US and internationally. Our other co-facilitator, Abby, is also currently pursuing a Psy.D in clinical psychology from Fuller Graduate School of Psychology with a special interest in trauma and cross-cultural psychology. She's also in her final year working as that doctoral intern at USD's Counseling Center. Abby's worked in a variety of settings such as community mental health, private practice, and VA hospital. Abby loves spending time with family and friends, traveling, trying new foods, thrifting, snowboarding, and crafting. And so together this evening, they're going to bring to you years of experience, and we're hoping that all of you can also join in, use that chat feature, share any of your tips and tricks that have also been successful as you're navigating balancing working full-time with going back to school. Please join me in welcoming our two co-facilitators. Welcome, Abby and Lauren.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Diana. Thank you all for being here. We are just really glad and excited to do this and invite you all to engage as you feel comfortable. We invite you to put your cameras on if you feel comfortable. Lauren's going to share some slides here shortly. But my name is Abby. Again, as Diana said, I'm one of the doctoral interns at the Counseling Center. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm happy to be here with you all today. All right, so we're going to be talking a little bit about balance today, but wanted to get a chance to just hear a little bit from you all, get to know you all a little bit. And so thought we would open up the floor and hear about what are some potential challenges or stressors that are coming up for you in school. This just gives a chance for us to get to know you and for you all to hear kind of the differences or similarities between you all as well. So if you don't mind unmuting and sharing a little bit, or also you can use the chat feature if you feel more comfortable that way, but really just invite you to engage with this question. But what are some challenges or stressors that come up? Okay, I see you starting a new job and then also returning to school after 2 years. Thanks, Mercy. Yeah, not enough hours in the day to get everything done. Thanks, Diana. Jody, returning to school after almost 20 years, balancing family life and social life. Yeah, thanks everyone. Keep them coming. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of stress between full-time work and school and coming back to school. Those are some themes that you all connect on. Yeah, thank you, Jordan. Yep, similar to Mercy for sure. Yep, staying on track with school and on schedule, fluctuating work schedules. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of like that balancing is difficult. And so here, thinking about those different stressors, making room for hobbies. Thanks, Alyssa. What are some impacts of those challenges or stressors? So in others, what do you notice about how that impacts you? Feeling burnt out? Yeah, thanks, Alyssa. Anybody else feeling burnt out? Okay. Yeah, difficult to focus on learning, overwhelmed, not being involved as much. Yeah, have to spend sleeping, right? Taking care of yourself in that. Yeah, losing motivation. So there's a lot of like impact in emotions and behaviors, maybe different things that you used to do, maybe it's changed now, or you don't feel as motivated, not involved in the same things. Thanks everyone for naming those. I noticed that there's again some similarities across the board too. So you all are not alone in that. And I know I've experienced that as well. All right, Lauren, I'll kick it to you.
Yeah, so one impact can be feeling a lot of anxiety, whether that's anxiety about like you are worried about things at home or you're worried about things at school, or just like in general, you're feeling maybe a little bit more on edge, or I think like people noted having trouble sleeping or anything like that. So I wanted to normalize that feeling anxiety is not necessarily a bad thing, because anxiety has a function. It can kick us into gear a little bit. It can motivate us to get things done. But too much anxiety can be a harmful thing. So we have this graph here that shows that if you don't have enough anxiety, you're really relaxed, you're not motivated to get things done at work or at home or anything like that. And then you can see as anxiety increases here, performance actually increases. And then it peaks at a certain point. There's a certain level of anxiety that is helpful in order to help you kind of get things done, organize your day, be able to kind of follow through with all of the tasks that you all are juggling. And then you can see that as anxiety continues to increase, the productivity goes back down. So when you have too much anxiety, your head starts to get filled with all the things that you're worried about, and all the like what ifs, worst case scenarios. And so you start to get distracted. And then you feel so anxious that maybe you can't focus on the task. I wonder if anyone has ever felt so anxious that they just feel stuck, like they can't start anything because everything feels too overwhelming. I know that's definitely an experience that I've had, kind of juggling multiple roles. And so what we need to recognize is when the anxiety is kind of getting past this point of peak performance, when it's becoming really distracting, or it's getting to a point where we don't feel like we can move or start a task. So what we want to do is then engage in coping strategies to decrease that anxiety just enough so that we can re-engage with those tasks that we are wanting to do. So we will go over some of those coping strategies a little bit later, but we wanted to kind of highlight some impacts of chronic stress as well. And this can also be kind of the impact of chronic anxiety. So if you're at that point where you're past the peak, what it does is it stimulates the autonomic nervous system and causes a release of adrenaline and cortisol in the body. And so long term, this can cause some issues with digestion. It can cause issues with sleep, cardiovascular symptoms. It can lead to mental health concerns such as anxiety and depression. So there's a lot of ways it can show up in people. So my chronic anxiety or stress will look different than Abby's. So that's important to recognize that it's going to look different for everyone. Like what it looks like when we're feeling burnt out or feeling like we're just too overwhelmed is going to look different for everyone. So it's really important to recognize what it looks like for you. So some techniques that can be used don't require a ton of time and effort. And I think it's important to recognize that time is a very valuable resource as you all are juggling a lot of different things. And so we want to find things that we can do consistently that can fit into our schedules naturally and not think of it as some additional thing to do. An additional thing to do on our to-do list is not necessarily helpful. So it's important to recognize where in your schedule you could naturally fit something in. So whether that be the taking 2 minutes before you drive to work to just sit in your car and decompress or practice breathing, or things like that. So some of the kind of ideas that we have here are just getting outside. This can be for 5 minutes and just looking around you and not kind of being on your phone constantly when you're walking, but just being a little bit more mindful when you're walking. Regular sleep. I know this is very challenging when you have like homework and a job, and maybe you have families that you're also juggling. But prioritizing your sleep can do a lot for you. Making sure you're getting good meals, practicing mindfulness. So, like I said, just like taking a second to notice what's around you. You can practice mindfulness anywhere you are, just by stopping and noticing. Expressing gratitude. It's a small thing you can do on your lunch break or any time of the day. Just recognizing one thing you're grateful for can really add up. And just moving your body, socializing with other people, calling a friend on your commute, or calling a parent or something like that. So all these things can be done pretty quickly.
All right. And then real quick, Nicole, I see your comment here in the chat. I've tried to get a bit of exercise in every day, but when that doesn't happen, then I feel guilty and more stressed out from not completing that task. And I just want to take a second to just really normalize that. And thank you for sharing and being vulnerable about that. And it is so easy to kind of, be self-critical about that, especially when you're like really trying hard to implement these things. And yes, Diana, exactly. Giving yourself grace goes a long way during this period. And I think that that is just so necessary. And while, to remind yourself, like you are trying your best, and sometimes you have time to exercise or do that maybe like every day that week. And sometimes other things are important and take priority that week, and that's okay. And that's something we're going to talk about later, is kind of thinking about like boundaries and goals and how you want to kind of align that. But I just want to thank you, Nicole, for sharing that with us and with the group. And thank you, Diana, for your comment too. And here, thinking about emotion. So one of the things that Lauren pointed out earlier is the ways that anxiety has a function. And so we want to take some time and just really kind of tap into that idea of emotions having a function, because oftentimes it can be really easy to kind of think about our emotions and just say, okay, I can't think about this, or brush it down, or I shouldn't be feeling sad, or I can't feel anxious right now. But we want to kind of think about this idea of emotions as always having a function and for data to be curious about, as opposed to something to be fixed. And taking this second to kind of pause and be curious about these emotions really lets us pay attention to, okay, what do I need in this moment? I'm feeling burnt out. I'm feeling unmotivated. I'm feeling depressed. What is that emotion telling me about what need needs to be fulfilled or what I need in that moment? And that process of slowing down gets us to be really curious about what's going on. It gets us to be really in tune with what our bodies need, what our mental health needs. And being curious about those emotions can really go a long way in being able to be thoughtful about how we can meet those needs. And so this next exercise that we're going to do is a way for us to kind of check in and slow down and notice. We're going to do what's called a body scan, which if you want to raise a hand or do some kind of Zoom function, if you've heard of this, please do. But this is a way for us just kind of tap into, okay, how is my body feeling in this moment? What's going on? And give us that kind of break to check in. So thank you, Selena. I see your Zoom function, your thumb up, and Jordan too. So I'm going to go ahead and read this script and invite you all to just make yourself comfortable where you're at. If it's more comfortable to turn your camera off for this exercise, feel free to. If you want to keep it on, you're welcome to. But I just ask you to sit comfortable where you are at. If you're in a chair or on the ground or on your bed, try to sit up straight and just kind of relax your body. You can put your feet on the ground and put your back straight. That works really well. And just take a second to close your eyes and notice your breath. And take a slow, deep breath in, breathing in fully. And then take a slow, deep breath out, exhaling slowly. You're welcome to close your eyes or pick a fixed point somewhere in the room. And continue to breathe in slowly as you feel your stomach expand on the inhale, and relax and let go as you exhale. Just notice how that breath feels, how it feels slowing down as you take that deep, slow breath in and exhale. I invite you to let go of the noises around you and shift your attention from outside to inside yourself. If you are distracted by sounds in the room, simply notice this and bring your focus back to your breathing. Notice what that breath feels like coming in and going out. And slowly bring your attention down to your feet. Observe the sensations in your feet. You might want to wiggle your toes a little, feeling your toes against your socks or shoes or the bare ground. You might imagine sending your breath down to your feet as if the breath is traveling through the nose to the lungs and all the way down to your feet. And then back up again through your nose and lungs. When you are ready, allow your feet to dissolve in your mind's eye and move your attention up to your ankles, your calves, knees, and thighs. Observe the sensations you are experiencing throughout your legs. Breathe into and breathe out of the legs. If your mind begins to wander during this exercise, gently notice without judgment and bring your mind back to noticing the sensations in your legs. If you notice any discomfort, pain, or stiffness, don't judge this, just simply notice it. Observe how all sensations rise and fall, shift and change moment to moment. Notice how no sensation is permanent. Then, on the next out breath, allow the legs to dissolve in your mind and move to the sensations in your lower back and pelvis. Softening and releasing as you breathe in and out. Slowly move your attention up to your mid back and upper back. Become curious about the sensations here. With each out breath, you may let go of tension you are carrying. And then very gently shift your focus to your stomach and all the internal organs here. If you notice opinions arising around these areas, gently let these go and return to noticing sensations. As you continue to breathe, bring your awareness to the chest and heart region and just notice your heartbeat. Observe how the chest rises during the inhale and how the chest falls during the exhale. See if you can channel your breathing into and out of this area as if you are breathing into and out. Now shift the focus and bring your awareness up into your arms and hands. Observe the sensations or lack of sensations that may be occurring here. As you exhale, you may notice the arms soften and release tensions. Continue to breathe and shift focus to the neck, shoulder, and throat region. This is an area where we often have tension. And so be with the sensations here. It could be tightness, rigidity, or holding. You may notice the shoulders moving along with the breath. As you breathe, you may feel tension rolling off your shoulders. Now let your attention expand out to include the entire body as a whole. Bring into awareness the top of your head down to the bottom of your toes, and feel the gentle rhythm of the breath as it moves through the body. As you come to the end of this practice, take a full, deep breath, taking in all the energy of this practice. Exhale fully. And when you are ready, you're welcome to open your eyes, turn on your camera if you feel comfortable, and return your attention to the present moment. We welcome you back here. All right, I'll do a quick check-in pulse check. How did that feel for everyone? If it's easier to unmute, feel free to share. Welcome to use the chat too, but how did that feel to just kind of check in and notice where your body's feeling, where you're at? And I'll just share that only took about like 3-4 minutes, so really quick to do. I know it feels like it can be a lot, but really just something that you can just use just a few minutes to just check in. How is your body feeling? Yeah. Every day. Yep, felt good. Didn't really have so much tension in my calves and shoulders. Yeah, Mercy, nice job noticing those sensations. Okay, I'm glad it felt calming. Again, this is something that you can just tap into 2 minutes during the day. Just check in. What's your body telling you? What are those feelings telling you? How can you notice and slow down?
I noticed that I was holding a lot of tension in my jaw. And even though I'm not doing the full kind of body scan every day at work, I've been practicing trying to like make sure my shoulders are not up in my ears. So
Yeah, that's a good one.
I noticed that if I just purely spend like 2 seconds checking in with my shoulders throughout the day, that I can like relax them. So that's even a quick way to do a little body scan for yourself during the day, recognizing what area of your body you do hold tension in and just checking in on that area periodically. So you don't have to do the full body scan.
Yeah, that's a great example.
All right. So now we're going to talk about kind of holistically checking in with yourself. So it's really great to be able to check in with your body at the end of the day, in the middle of the day, or a long week. And it's also important to check in with yourself overall because you all are navigating a lot of different roles. And so some of these things can easily kind of slip off of your plate and you don't even recognize that one area of your life might be suffering. So this is what I call the like mental health hygiene table. And there's 4 legs: exercise, eating, social, and sleep. And exercise in this context is just 20 minutes of moderate exercise 3 times a week. So about an hour a week, nothing more than that. That's what research has shown is what you need to benefit your mental health. So what happens when one of these areas is off is the table can't hold anything. So you might find this is where some responsibilities are getting dropped, or that you feel like you don't have enough to give of yourself in all the areas. And so everyday stressors that you might be able to typically handle feel much harder. So one thing that I encourage everyone to do is you can note this mentally, or you can just jot it down, but give yourself a percentage for each of these areas of the table out of 100 to see kind of how you're doing. So exercise might be a 90, eating might be 85, but social, you might not have seen anyone for a few weeks. That might be down at like a 15%. So the goal is not to be at 100% in all of these areas. The goal is to recognize when one leg is significantly shorter than the other legs, and to do something to increase and to raise that leg up by just 10%. So that might mean like packing an extra snack for yourself throughout the day so that you have a little bit more energy. That might mean just like calling one friend in order to connect. So it's not realistic to be at 100% all the time in all areas of our life, but this can just kind of help you check in a lot of different areas and see, where do I need to put a little bit more focus and attention on in order to be able to hold everything upright that you're juggling.
Yeah, and thinking about how we can care for ourselves, I really like what Lauren said earlier about it's not adding like one more thing to our plate to do, right? Because that doesn't feel super realistic, doesn't feel very helpful. But when we think about caring for ourselves, we know that if we're not caring for ourselves, we're not really going to be able to do the other things that we really want to do or need to do. And so self care, thinking about it, is really that practice of taking an active role in protecting and maintaining one's well being. So I like this little picture here. It says, you got to nourish to flourish, right? If we really want to thrive, if we really want to flourish, we have to be putting something in. And that something, that self care, is not a luxury, right? It really is necessary to tap into that, to be able to hold that table up, to hold those things up that we want to do. We have to first be nourishing our bodies, what we're doing, how we're feeling. And so self-care takes many different forms. What self-care for me might not be self-care for you, and that's okay, but really being thoughtful about the fact that everyone needs self-care. What does that self-care look like for you in this season, right? In this season, what can you be doing for yourself? And also that self-care is an investment in yourself and is not always immediately rewarding, right? It's something that you do on that front end, thinking about considering there at the bottom, proactive versus retroactive self-care. How can you be proactive about self-care and invest in yourself so that you can hold that table up, hold up those things that you want to do, and really flourish? So here we have different domains of self-care. We have professional, academic needs, physical needs, psychological needs, spiritual needs, emotional needs, personal needs. There's so many different areas, and maybe what looks like self-care in this season for you might look different in another season. But we just invite you to kind of look at this table and maybe pop in the chat or unmute and say what's an area or a self-care domain or something that you want to kind of try out or already do and that works great for you. What are some examples here? Yes, Diana. Yeah, filling up the tank before it gets too empty. Thanks, Nicholas, for helping household tasks. Yeah, some of these things, it's interesting. Some of them take like 1 or 2 minutes, right? Some of them might take longer, but like laugh or learning to say no, asking for help. Those are all things that, can be hard at first, but really just take a couple seconds or a couple minutes and can really make that big difference in how you flourish. Okay. Any other ideas on what works for you? Walking, yeah. Meal prepping, same. Yep. Needing to say no, sleep and eating habits. Thanks, Selena. Yeah, these are all great ideas. And these are some ideas maybe to try out too. What stands out to you in these domains? Um, and
You ready
then
to
one thing, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead?
Reset after a swim. Yeah, that's a good example, Jordan. One other thing that can be helpful just in terms of resetting or grounding your body, what we know about deep breathing and really taking that time to breathe in deep, it really helps reset when you're feeling really stressed or anxious, when we're past that point of production, right? We want to kind of reset and ease that nervous system. And so this is a really helpful imagery of the count that can help with that slow, deep breathing. So I'm off track now, so I'll wait for it to go around again. But one thing that we can practice here together is doing this. So you breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, and then hold. And I want us to do this together just for a minute or so and just kind of check in with how that feels when we're able to kind of slow down our bodies and reset and re-regulate that nervous system. So we'll just do this for a minute together. Breathe in for 4.
Awesome. And one note that I wanted to make is that oftentimes when we are feeling overwhelmed, we are breathing from our lungs. So you're breathing kind of all up here. And what you want to try to do is breathe from your like diaphragm. So when you breathe in, you can put your hands like on your stomach, and you want your stomach to push your hand outwards when you're breathing in, and then that go back inwards when you breathe out. So if you find yourself breathing kind of in your lungs, like really short breaths, try breathing from your diaphragm a little deeper. And then just some questions about how do we restore ourselves, what ideas we want to try for self-care. I think we talked about a few of these, but I just wanted to highlight that we don't need to be at 100% even for self-care. So what Abby said, what worked for you in one season of life might not be working for you now, and that's okay. So instead of feeling frustrated of like, oh, I used to be able to engage in this hobby all the time, and that was really relaxing for me. And now I just don't have the time to engage in that hobby. That's okay, because we're going through different seasons of life, and different things are going to work at different times. So it's okay to switch things up and recognize when something's no longer working for you, even if it used to be helpful. That doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means that that you have different needs that now, and you need to meet them in different ways. So talking a little bit about mastering time, one of those is to build boundaries. And I like to think about boundaries allow us to let things in that we really care about and that matter. And it also can look like setting limits for ourselves. So different cultures and settings have different expectations when it comes to boundaries. You might hear the word boundary and have some initial kind of reaction, whether that's positive or negative or something like that. So that's completely normal too. So there are things called porous boundaries and then rigid boundaries. So porous boundaries are ones where it's hard for us to say no to a lot of things, and rigid ones are where we're maybe a little too rigid, and we put up maybe a little bit too many walls. And so we want to find a good kind of happy medium. So it means being able to say no when you need to, but also being able to open yourself up to intimacy and opportunities. Maybe this is like asking for help. It means avoiding compromising your values for others, recognizing your own needs and wants and communicating them, but also accepting when other people say no. So boundaries can lead to more clarity, and it also can lead to more compassion. So saying no can open up space for things that you care about in life. So saying no to an extra work happy hour or something like that might feel challenging, because you might really like your coworkers and want to hang out with them, and it might feel important to show up. But saying no might open you up to more quality time with your family, or your ability to care for yourself and do something you haven't done in a really long time. So I like for people to think about boundaries as being able to open up opportunities, as opposed to like just saying no and shutting things out.
The other thing that we wanted to talk and just share a little bit about is creating goals, because that's something that can be helpful too, and how to create those boundaries and whether those are porous or rigid and what that looks like. And so thinking about goals as sustainable goals that align with your actual time, energy, and values, right? We want to be thoughtful about all of those different areas and what it looks like to have sustainable goals. So one just thing to think about is to conduct a capacity audit of your weekly commitments. So being thoughtful about, okay, what do I have to do this week? And then asking yourself what feels exciting versus what feels obligatory. Considering seasonal rhythms, so midterms, jobs, family needs, what's going on, and then prioritizing depth over breadth. Doing fewer things with more intention. And I think that is often something that gets overlooked because we want to, I think a lot of society tells us we have to do a lot of things, keep pushing, keep going. And that leads us to maybe do things with fewer intention. But we really want to think about how can we really prioritize this depth over goals and be really intentional about the goals that we're creating that align with time, energy, and values. So we're going to do a short activity just for reflection here. And we invite you to take a few minutes to just think about 1 to 3 goals for this next semester. Um, 1 to 3 goals within your rhythms of life. And then thinking about the estimated effort needed to achieve each goal. Is that high, medium, low effort? And then does this align with your expected capacity? So just take a few minutes to kind of think about this, thinking about what effort you have, the capacity, and then also just thinking about how these are valued too. All right. If anyone has any thoughts about this they want to share with the group, you're welcome to. Anything that maybe stands out. We also wanted to share some resources with you all from USD too. So we'll just put that slide up so you all can take a picture or just write down some information down if you need. But yep, here are some student wellness resources. If you have any questions about these resources, you're welcome to email through, through the different websites, but just want to make sure you all have awareness of these resources, specifically timely care. Just want to highlight that as, that's another really great resource as well to get online therapy, 12 free sessions for the school year. So Nicole, date night with your husband. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's a great example.
Yeah, and I think to wrap us up, I just wanted to highlight that you all are in very unique situations, working and in school and just navigating a lot of different priorities. And it might feel like setting those goals are hard because they might all feel like very high effort things. And something that I was told when I started graduate school was that you're not going to be able to give 100% to everything. And also your 100% can look different. So giving 100% to your readings in class or something like that looks different than giving 100% to your family or to your job. So it's okay to not feel like you are at the tippy top of your game in every single area, because that's not realistic. one of my kind of cheat codes in graduate school was I found that dictating papers was really helpful for me because typing just took way too long. And so I recognized that if I put just that amount of effort that I had into dictating a paper, that was better than like feeling like I was failing and not able to give it all of the time I needed. So yeah, that looks different for everyone. And if you have any questions or you're curious about kind of other techniques in order to help manage boundaries or to help kind of assess for anxiety or overall mental health, feel free to reach out. We are happy to answer any questions as well. So if anyone has any questions about this presentation or anything at all, feel free to ask it in the chat. Diane, I love the resource that you just dropped in the chat too. Resources for boundaries with family who doesn't understand kind of online school. Yeah, that is challenging because they are not kind of experiencing what you're experiencing. And with virtual format, it feels hard because it doesn't feel, quote, as tangible because you're not physically leaving and coming back always. I'll throw this one over to Abby if you can think of anything. And if not, we can follow up with a more like specific resource when everything is I think the video is sent out.
Yeah, I don't have any specific resource off the top of my head. But I wonder if kind of thinking about, I'm sure you already tried this, but just in like communicating what that's like for you, what your experience is like with online school, how you like need that time to get those assignments done or do the work that you need to do. And to Lauren's point about not being able to leave and such, I wonder if there are spaces that can be yours where you're able to kind of just go to, and this is my school time in the same way that you go to work and come back, like this is your work time, this is your school time. And really being able to curate and craft that. Yeah, Selena, thanks for your tip. I love that. Classmate with little studies 5 to 8 a.m. It's early. Yep. But, thinking about like what you can do with the schedule that you have to really curate that to your family. Yep, as they go to the library. Yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
Oh, I was going to say something that might be helpful, especially with like younger kids who need more visuals, is to create a pie chart and create a section for like all the different obligations you have in your life to be able to just illustrate, look, like here are all the things that I am doing as a person and a parent and a student. And this is kind of what my life looks like broken up into a little pie chart. So that might just be a helpful visual to give your family members and show your family members to illustrate all of the different roles that you are wearing.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Lauren.
Any other questions or anything like that?
I'm happy to share that I've also heard from other students with littles. They usually trade off if you've got a partner. And so maybe one sleeps in every other Saturday and then the other one takes the littles out. And so that could potentially give you some more time as well. But I do hear that resonates with a lot of our students. We've got about 25% of our online degree seeking students are also parents. So you're definitely not alone in that. Thank you so much, Abby and Lauren, for joining us this evening and for sharing all of these resources and tips. I think, especially like the box breathing, a lot of this stuff is something that we can immediately apply as we're going through our degree program. So thank you again. I will be sending out the recording and the slide deck for everyone that registered this evening too. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for your engagement.
Thank you.